everyone, and welcome back to So You Want to Be a Millionaire. I'm your co-host, Sharla Brown, joined with your co-host, the beautiful, amazing, and talented Jacquie Somerville, where today we're going to be talking to you about the power of the imagination. Another one of your favorite topics, Jacquie, is imagination.
It is. Oh my gosh.
Yes. So what do you want to start with today, Jacquie, when you think about our imagination and how powerful it is for us to create the life of our dreams and, of course, the money that we want in our lives as well?
Yeah, it's so interesting when you look back on your life and you see how absolutely everything that you've done or acquired started first with a thought, right? You dared to think about it and then you dwelled on it. And we don't get things that just flash in and out of our minds. We get the stuff and we become the people that we dwell on, right? So the more you can conjure up a story around what you desire in your life, the greater the likelihood is that it's going to become your reality. So imagination, as Einstein said, imagination is more important than knowledge. Imagination encircles the world. Knowledge is limited. And Gloria Steinem had a beautiful quote about imagination being a form of planning, which I absolutely love. It's so true. It is a form of planning. And every single thing starts with a thought, and with then taking that thought and building on that and dwelling on it. So we're going to get into how you can really do this, how you can utilize what I've long called mind movies, long before it became a brand. I always have to be careful that people think I'm stealing that word because it is a brand now, but I've called it mind movies long before that, where you create a sort of a movie around what you desire in your life. And you then dwell on that in your meditation a couple times a day. And just in your downtime, like let's say you're standing in line at the post office or whatever, just start going there with a big smile on your face. Anyway, we're going to get more into the nuts and bolts and the nitty gritty of how you actually do this. But just realize that absolutely everything that's come into your life is because you dared to think about it and you dared to dwell on it and you thought about it, even and especially the bad stuff, because so many people have lots of bad things coming to them more than good. Why? Because that's what they're thinking about all the time. They're imagining worst case scenarios. And the more they do that, the more bad stuff happens, which proves their whole point, which is why they keep doing it. Can you imagine if the opposite were true, if you dwelled on good stuff? Because then more good stuff would happen, and that would prove your point about that. So it's really, really interesting. We're going to change your mind today about how you can stop using your mind for bad and start using it for good, because my goodness, this is also the one virtue, the one amazing thing that we've been given that I don't believe other animals have. It seems to be the thing that separates us from the rest of the animal kingdom, which is why we're the ones driving around in cars and flying in airplanes. Because someone dared to imagine that stuff. Imagination very often is born out of when we're uncomfortable or when something is not quite working out, and we start thinking, God, how can this be better? How could I devise a better egg flipper or whatever? It's really the imagination gets moving, and pretty soon you become the inventor of a new egg flipper. It's really, really interesting. So all that is to say, we're going to help you today to utilize your imagination for good and really get into it so that you love it, because it's like living the dream twice. You get to live it in your imagination and then you get to live it when it comes true. And I'm telling you, it's equally as beautiful in both circumstances, incidents. In fact, the imagination is even better because something to look forward to is really exciting for a human being.
100%, Jacquie. And there's another quote that I love where it says, imagination is the preview of life's coming attractions.
Yes.
And I love that because it's the fact that whatever you can imagine, you can realize in your life. The possibilities are endless. How wild can you get with your imagination to create the life that you want to have? But so many of us lose sight of how important imagination is. We think, we imagined when we were kids. That was something we did when we were kids. And we were so darn good at it, weren't we? It was so easy for us to be that fairy princess or whatever it is that we wanted to be or wanted to become or wanted to dream up. I remember, sitting in my bedroom for hours and, imagining all these friends and imaginary friends and scenarios and parties and house of my dreams and what everything looked like. And I would do all the, entertaining in my beautiful kitchen and, whatever the case might be. And I could see it like it was there. And we were so good at it as children. And along the lines, people start telling us to stop dreaming, to, get back on reality, keep your feet on the ground, all these kind of things. And we stop imagining and we stop dreaming. And it's so sad because we start buying into the fact that this is just how life is. This is good as it gets. And we start getting comfortable with struggles and, bad things that just happen and assuming that these things are just going to happen to us. And, it's not always for our highest good or for our best selves. And why can't we imagine those things and go back to really believing and imagining? Because the more you can live in that, like it's already happening, the more that we can create it. And it's, what is it that you want? And some of us have a hard time even trying to go there, which I know you'll give everybody some tips as to how to even build that mind movie, where to start. But that it's important that we do this every single day. It's not something just to do once in a while. I think, there's people out there who will put together a vision board and then maybe never look at it or never put it somewhere, that it's triggering them to imagine and to take that time, even if it's only 5 minutes in a day, how powerful that can be to create your reality.
Yes, Sharla, it's so true. And I love that you reminded us about the kid thing, because my God, it's no surprise that I've manifested millions of dollars and a really quite an extraordinarily adventurous life thus far. When you think about what a great imaginer I was as a kid, and I've maintained that through most of my adult life, the times when I've fallen on hard times, I stopped doing it. I fell into the sort of reality, right? When we're kids, we get told to snap out of daydreaming, that daydreaming is bad. Daydreaming is one of the best things you can ever do. Mm-hmm. And, when people sit quietly and think and go into their daydreams, that's when they're drawing that stuff to them. I was such a crazy kid. I mean, I had 3 imaginary friends. I don't know how many years I had them. Their names were Mather, Perm, and Madam. Did we talk about this already on the show?
No, I'm learning new stuff today.
Okay, because it is weird. I know.
Those are good names. Those are some great names. Mine were Cindy and Beth.
Cindy and Beth?
Yes.
Oh my God. Well, Mather was a guy, and he was a hairstylist, because I imagined myself as an adult, right? Even though I was all of 3. And so he was a hairstylist and he was my best friend. So it's no wonder that, when looking back, I think Mather was probably gay, and I didn't even know what gay people were back then. But really, it's quite fortuitous that my best friend is a gay man. I mean, it's really, I'm like, oh, I imagined that into being too. And Perm and Madam, they were a bit older than Mather and I. And Perm obviously came from the fact that my mother had perms in those days. And Madam, well, God, I don't know. I guess my mother was called Madam by the staff or something. I don't know. But anyway, these were my friends. And I used to ride my bicycle pretending it was a car going to visit them and everything else. And one day my mother said to me, Perm and Madam had long disappeared, and it was just down to Mather, and he and I were hanging out. One day, my mom realized she hadn't heard me talk about Mather for a while. So we're sitting at the dining table. My mom said, "Fu, where's Mather? We haven't heard you talk about Mather," because my whole family knew about them and everything, right? I mean, so I said, "Oh, he's dead." So my mother, to this day, she loves that story, because she said I was so matter of fact. She just said, "Oh," and I was like, "Yeah, he's dead. End of story." And nobody knows how Mather died or why I killed him off or anything. But my mother, to this day, she finds them just killed off my imaginary friends when I was done with them. Not to say that that's going to become true. I'm not going to kill anybody. But it was funny how just one day I was done with them. Anyway, I am a big, wild, crazy imaginer, of course. And everything that I have is because I imagined it. I remember driving my car along this highway in the Transvaal, was then the Transvaal in South Africa, working for a big motor car company, driving out to a dealer by myself. And I'd already started the process of immigrating or dreaming about immigrating to, at this point, Canada had become a very real possibility. And I remember driving along that road and imagining that there was a blizzard. There's no such thing in South Africa on roads like that. But I was imagining, because I was imagining myself in Canada, I imagined the snowy road, all white, and this blizzard. And every time I was on that highway, in my imagination, I was driving through a blizzard. And it was so weird when driving out to my ranch in British Columbia, I'd find myself on this highway all alone, driving with everything white and snow coming down. And I'd think, my God, I've seen this before. I saw it so truly and so really in my imagination while I was driving around Johannesburg in the bright sun and the searing heat in the middle of summer. I could see that snow. I could feel it. And pretty soon, obviously, moving to Canada became my reality. There's so many things I can look back on and see how I imagined them into being. It's so extraordinary. So we're going to get into how to actually do this. And of course, as you and I always talk about, the very first thing is knowing what you friggin' want, right? Stop dwelling on what could go wrong and start dwelling strategically on what you desire. The end result, mind you. And again, people have heard us talk about this over and over again. This is not about how to do it. This is not about getting stuck in stepping stones. This is about the end result. What do I want this particular thing in my life to look like? And I'm going to give you some concrete little examples. So that was one, right? Seeing myself driving through the blizzard and so on. But let's say, for example, you have a certain financial goal that you want to meet. Let's say you will, well, let's keep it simple. Let's say you want to buy a specific car, okay? Get really clear on what that car looks like, or you want to own a car. Get really clear on what it looks like. It's your dream car, right? Get clear on what the color is, what it looks like inside, what it feels like to put your hands on the steering wheel, and write all of this down. It's a really important part of the process to write it down. So you start writing, yeah, I think it's going to be gray. It's going to have orange trim. It's going to have the, shiny spokes and a big prancing horse on the front, or a big Taurus the bull on the front, or whatever, right? And all of that. And you look at pictures so that you get a clear image of what you want. And then you build a little story around it. So in my case, I had a little story of walking into the dealership and seeing my car there with a big bow on it because I was about to take possession, and having the sales manager come out with popping some champagne and handing me the keys and saying, "Congratulations, Jacquie. We're so thrilled to hand over your vehicle to you today." And then I get in it and I feel my hands on the steering wheel. I smell that new leather smell and I feel the thrill of stepping in it. And I hear the engine roaring as I start to move it out into the driveway. That whole little scenario takes a split second in my mind, but it's so real and it's so doable, believable, livable, all of that stuff, right? But we've got to actually build these little movies, keep them short and sweet, because the longer they are, the more the mind wanders and starts bringing in all sorts of nonsense, right? The shorter we keep these little stories, the better. And the more real they are in terms of smell, in terms of texture, in terms of whether you're tasting something, feeling something. A conversation makes a great mind movie. The great Neville Goddard taught this in so many of his spectacular books on imagination, that a conversation is a really good one. So, for example, somebody's trying to sell their house to the right buyer for the right price. And all they do in their imagination is they create this little story where the realtor calls them and says, "Congratulations, we got a full offer. The money's paid. The contract's finalized. It's a done deal. Signed, sealed, the money's in the bank." A conversation as simple as that, where you hear his voice, you feel your emotion as you hear it, you feel your hand grabbing the phone or hanging it up, all of that stuff. It can be as simple as that. So what do you want to imagine into being right now? And let's start with something for this month. something like a car, something like a $10,000 bonus in your bank account, something like a new magnificent dress to wear to the ball, or a pair of earrings, diamond earrings to wear to something special that's coming up. The more real you can make it, the better. Start with something like that, and then you can go into the imaginate, creating a mind movie around your biggest dream, your ideal life as well. So that's what I suggest off the bat. Whew, lots there.
Yes. And it's so powerful. And I would even go one step further, especially if it's buying a car, go test drive it.
Yeah.
Go down to the dealership, meet a salesperson, learn all about that car, but go and sit in it. Go take it for a drive around the block. Remember the smell of the leather, how it felt, the gears shifting, whatever the case is, that you will not be able to forget. I've done that so many times, especially when it came to looking at dream homes. I might be on a holiday or vacation in the Caribbean, and I thought, gosh, I could live here. And so many times that I've went to an open house or something that was there and just walked through it. And just to be able to imagine yourself, living there and walking through the kitchen and what your life would look like. And you can see the beach from your front patio or out your window or whatever the case is. The more that you can get those feeling like they're real, like they've already happened, that you can imagine this is your life, the more powerful it becomes. Another suggestion that I have, so whether it's a raise at work or whatever, is that, do yourself up, or a dream house that you want to have, is do up the paperwork, of what it is that you're buying, and sign it. Like it's already done. So whether that's a letter from, your employer saying, you've done a magnificent job and we're giving you a raise, or whether it's, mortgage paperwork or whatever, it's for you. And the more you see it, the more you feel like it's already done. And it can be really powerful stuff. I know it seems crazy, but this stuff really works. And
Yeah.
It made me think about when you were telling the story of when you were a kid and just looking at my life now. So about grade 3, grade 4, I remember being in our classroom, and at the back of the classroom was all of the books, and there was a stack of National Geographic magazines. And I would always go and pull a National Geographic magazine at recess or whatever and flip through it and dream and imagine, because there's all these magnificent places. And I was a small town country girl, going to town, which only had less than 1,000 people in it, was a big deal for me because I was a country kid. But flipping through these magazines and seeing, different cultures, different people who wore different clothing, different animals, different landscapes, different architecture, I was just obsessed with it all. And I would go home and I would think and dream about all these things, and I would tell my parents all about it. And I would watch, there was a show called The Wild Kingdom here in Canada, and I'd be like, I want to go and see the zebras. I want to go and see the giraffes. And I just think now, like, it turned me into a world traveler. At 15 years old, once I hit high school, I had the opportunity to go to Spain, Portugal, and Africa. That's where it started for me. And I've been to, 40, 50 countries around the world now. I've been on those safaris. I've seen those animals. And it just makes me think about, how real this can be. And, it was so easy then to imagine, because as a kid, all you got is time. All you have is your imagination and all the things that you want to do and all the possibilities for your life. And as we get older, we tend to feel like, well, I'm too old for that. Or, we start telling all these things that aren't true. Or, maybe when the kids get out of the house, or when the mortgage is paid off, or all these different things. But it's so important to imagine now you can change any of that. And it's never too late. You can imagine anything you want, and it can happen so quickly. We know women who've started, especially with you, Jacquie, because you do the Monday meditations and the mind movies and all that kind of stuff with our clients, and how they could really picture and visualize things in their life and how quickly they've shown up. We had a client yesterday that we talked to, and all these things, that just these quick shifts and being able to imagine these things for her life in that week started transpiring and showing up for her, including a multi-million-dollar home across the street, across in the next neighborhood where she lives, where she knows it's coming.
Yeah.
She's confident that it's coming. And so, yeah, it's just powerful stuff for sure.
Yeah, it really is. Gosh, that call just it put tears in both of our eyes yesterday to see somebody, manifest so quickly. Big contracts and money coming in when there was none just a few weeks ago, and really amazing the stuff that people can do when they start to put everything we teach, the foundational work, into practice, right? And yeah, I think about the great story of manifesting the horses when I was a kid, that I utilized the bicycles because in my imagination, I could at least pretend that the bikes were horses. And so I would do rising trot on the saddle, the whole thing. I would yell just like my riding teacher would yell at myself, telling myself how to ride better, keep my heels down, and my back up straight or whatever. And then I would feed the damn bikes a bunch of hay or grass in the garage. And it's so weird how 18 months later I had a pony. And we lived in the suburbs. There was no place for a pony, but it was just so miraculous how my father was transferred to the country, and how I'd worked so hard at my writing, going to lessons, and my parents were watching, and they came to me and they said, "Hey, we've been saving this money. It was for when you got married or went to university, but you're only 7 years old now. But if you want to buy a pony, we can take out what you've got and you can buy a pony." And I was like, it truly was remarkable how it worked out. Here's the thing, is that this is who we are. God, I believe, gave us this incredible power. It's who we are. It's been taken out of us over the years. It's not that we were supposed to only have it as kids. It's that it's been drummed out of us. Get your head out of the clouds. Stop daydreaming. You got to be realistic. That's not real life. Boom, 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 boom. So what happens? We start living in this realistic life. Who wants to live a realistic life? Bleh, that's nasty. It's horrible. People who want to get you in a realistic life, what is their life does their life look like? It looks awful to me, that realistic nonsense. So it's a life of struggle and boredom and mediocrity. And so I think it's just a question of getting back to who we are and what we are. We are these big dreamers. We are people who are able to imagine things into actual reality. And so unlearning the nonsense that's been put in our heads is really the key here, because I believe it is who we are. We've been given this power from the day we were born. Let's keep using it. And you're right. You're never too old for any darn thing.
Absolutely. And that's the thing is, we get taught this life of practicality and what's practical, and we're true believers in what is possible. The best part of this is it's free. It doesn't cost you anything to imagine. So what do you have to lose? You have nothing to lose and everything to gain. Everything and anything you could ever want, that you could ever imagine, can be yours. Yeah, it's powerful, powerful stuff. I also want to say that it's beyond positive thinking. So people will often get this confused and they'll say, well, I am a positive thinker. I think positively and stuff all the time. And yet, none of these things happen for me. It's beyond positive thinking. It's really being able to picture everything that you want, the life that you want, having crystal clear clarity as to what that looks like so that it feels real. That you can already see it, you can feel it, you can taste it. It's that tangible for you. So it's not just thinking positively like, oh, I hope for good things to happen in my life and I treat people well and all that kind of stuff. It's no, what do you want? And sometimes people struggle with that, feeling like it's not natural for them because they've been taught that it's wrong to want these things in their life, but it's not wrong. This is your one precious life. You can have whatever you want. It's not only just for the select few in this world. It's not just for, those are famous people or those are whatever. No, it's the fact that they imagine something bigger for their life. So we all have this power and it's completely free for us to use.
Yes, Sharla, I'm so glad you brought up about the thing that positive thinking is not enough. That's absolutely right, and so many people get stuck in that. It's got to be this belief that is, where it's made so real in this beautiful thing called imagination. And it's really important when you're creating your little mind movie, whether it's a little conversation or perhaps it's a little party. I like using parties as well. So I'll create in my imagination a celebratory party for something that has now manifested, right, in my imagination. And that's a lovely one too, because I love to give speeches. So at parties, I can give speeches saying, we're all here to celebrate that I made this big dream of mine come true, this big goal. And I'm so glad you're all here to celebrate with me. And thank you for, and so that a little party can be a great one. But I will say it's really important to work this out first before you start imagining. Go and get your journal or big pieces of paper and colored pens and have a little fun with working out the story so that you're very clear on it and all the details before you close your eyes and you go into the fourth dimension. Otherwise, the mind will wander, it'll get confused, it'll go off on a tangent. So have your story super clear before you do it. Then what you want to do is you want to get into the fourth dimensional state, which is why we always include our imagination in our meditation sessions here at MPW. We call it Imaginate. This is our own word that we came up with, imagination cross with meditation. And the very first thing is we utilize gratitude and breathing and so on to get into the fourth dimension, to feel connected to the divine, to really, really connect with God, spirit. And in that fourth dimensional state of complete bliss, of complete all is well in the here and now, do we then go into our movie. So that's an important thing. So if you're doing this at home, create a little story around what you want, make it real, write it down, and then go into a quiet stillness where you connect with the divine, with the ether, whatever you want to call it. And the best way to do that is to utilize gratitude. So I love listening to some gospel songs because they get me into that state of gratitude very easily. I can drop everything and I can just start to feel deep appreciation for the here and now. It connects me with the divine. And when I'm in that blissful place, that's the place to utilize the imagination. So really get connected first, feel the bliss, feel the fourth dimension, and then utilize imagination and give thanks as if it is already done, because it is. Time just hasn't caught up yet. But once you have imagined and made something clear to the divine, it is already done. Trust that process. Let go. Don't be looking at it around every single corner, because then you're not trusting. Just enjoy the imagination without the impatience that comes with it needs to happen now. If you can have it so real in your imagination, what's the hurry? You can go there already. You can drive the car in your imagination. What's the hurry of it actually sitting in the driveway? Trust the process, but utilize your imagination in a patient, still, blissed out way. And I'm telling you, your mind will be blown.
Yes, it sure will. And I love that you mentioned that part, because it is the most important piece of that puzzle, is that feeling of gratitude, that when you're imagining and that when you're asking for these things in your life, you're doing it from a place of gratitude, because that is where the divine connection lies. And when you're imagining that and you're so thankful and grateful for it, and as you put those things together, and for each of us that can look different, but we always suggest using a multitude of different things to help you with your imagination. So you see behind Jacquie, her vision board, images are powerful, because what we can see in our mind, what we can see in front of us, we can see in our life. So, creating a vision board and having that, using it as a screensaver or your phone screensaver, whatever the case is, something that you see all the time, that even throughout the day, it's triggering that imagination, which is super powerful. Writing it down and using details that really describe, what it is that you want and imagine. We always say this is so powerful when it comes to finding your dream mate, your dream person. What are the qualities they have? What are their values and their characteristics and all those kind of things? The more you can write them down, the more you can imagine this person or whatever it is that you're wanting to to visualize for your life and imagine for your life, but the more it brings it into reality. So the more specific you can get in terms of journaling and writing it down, and then reading that every day, making that part of your daily routine, whether that's in the morning, whether that's before you go to bed, but always ending that in such great gratitude. Or when you ask for it, I always say, I'm so thankful and grateful now that, and asking like it's already been done. And these things can be so powerful. The other thing that Jacquie said that's so important is then letting go of how it comes to pass and when it comes to pass. Because lots of times it's like when we want something, we wanted it yesterday. And so then we get really impatient. So trusting in that divine timing that, once you've asked and you can imagine it, that the universe is conspiring to make it happen, connecting all the dots, putting everything together for you. And so you can kind of sit back, surrender, let go, relax, knowing that it is coming in divine timing exactly when it's supposed to, never a minute too late. And so whether that is your dream mate, because that's lots of times where our patience runs out, or the money that we're really, really wanting and needing, and but really trusting that it can happen like this, and to never worry about that. And I've done that in my own life and watched so many women, and of course Jacquie as well, in terms of manifesting that, sometimes we've imagined things and it's happened that day or that week. And sometimes, it can take longer, weeks or months or years. But that it is coming exactly when it's supposed to come. Everything in the universe is in divine order.
Yes, exactly right, Sharla. So everybody can relax, not worry, not be impatient, because those things are the opposite of faith. And when we have impatience and worry and concern and so on, what we're actually doing is we're blocking it, because it is already done, and everything we ask for is already done. It's just we have all sorts of blocks that we put up to it, and that's one way of blocking things, is to get stuck in worry and stuck in impatience and so on. And so there's all sorts of reasons why things don't come instantly or quickly, and that's one of them. And you talked about some of the tools, the vision boards and so on. And also, I love doing things like superimposing things like your name and your book title on the top of the New York Times bestseller list and putting that on your vision board, superimposing a couple $1 million into your checking account or your business checking account or whatever, and printing that off, and using Photoshop to make your balance in the millions, and putting that on your board, because every time you look at that, you can start thinking, oh, what is it going to be like to have millions of dollars in my account? And then your imagination goes off and you start dreaming about how fun it is and what you're going to spend it on and all of that, which is so wonderful. And of course, I've got my $1 trillion bill right here at my desk. I found this trillion in a bush the other day. And our 100 MPW members know the story behind that. But it's so lovely, because every time I look at this trillion, I did wash it. It just reminds me of how limitless everything is. This was God just saying, listen, it's all limitless. You can have whatever you want. It's so beautiful and wonderful. And I never even thought that they made $1 trillion bills or even fake $1 trillion bills. But hey, I found one in a bush. So, but again, it gets me my mind thinking. I think, what would I do with $1 trillion? What big causes, what would I change in the world? My God, you could change so much. That's $1,000 billion. So your imagination starts running rampant. And once your imagination goes there, oh my gosh, you just never know what's going to happen in your life and in the lives of those you care about and the causes you care about and so on. Because it is a powerful, powerful tool. And you do not get stuck in the house. Just don't.
Yes.
Leave that up to the divine.
Yes. Absolutely. And another good example of that, which you've given to a lot of our ladies before, in terms of how you said about, pasting your book cover on the New York Times bestselling thing, is also for those that are wanting to lose the weight, is to put what you want to weigh on your scale and not look at what the number is, because the power of your imagination to be able to see that, you can manifest that, and how that makes you feel. That's the thing, is that when you step on that and you see what you want to see, it brings about the energy and everything to help you achieve that, as opposed to, always being frustrated and angry and all that kind of stuff. It's another
Absolutely.
good.
Yes, I love that one. And it's so true.
Yeah,
People get on the scale all the time when they're on a diet. And I'm like, well, if you're going to do that, you put your ideal weight on that darn scale. And every time you look, you go, wow, I did it. Oh, it
yes,
feels so great to be at that weight or whatever, right? Yes.
yes,
And as
yeah,
you're right, it gets your energy and the law of attraction gets in, you start to become magnetic to what you want when you are living in it already energetically. When you're
yeah,
vibing as that, it comes to you.
yes, yes. And we just invite you to start practicing it. Don't worry about getting it perfect. And as you do it more and more, the easier it'll get and your imagination will expand. So, maybe right now, this is what you can imagine. That's great. That's a great place to start. As time goes on and you start manifesting, some of the littler things you want in your life, you're going to get the courage and confidence to really start manifesting and really start imagining, your true desires and what you're really wanting for your life, not just for your life, but those that you love and how it can impact it. One of my strongest imaginate sessions for myself is the impact I want to create. I can see the faces of the women and girls that, I'm able to empower through the work that I'm able to do. I can see girls in their little school uniforms with big smiles going into that classroom, sitting, writing at their desk, so happy. I see, older girls graduating in their gowns, cap and gowns, so excited about their life, all the possibilities, no longer having to worry about any struggles, being able to help their families. I'm able to see it all. And so that's the thing, is that whatever it is that you dream of, all that you imagine, you can make that possible in your life. So whether that's the things that you desire, things that you want to impact and do in this world, all of it you can imagine and all of it you can experience.
Oh, yes, Charlotte, that was so beautiful. We could see that and feel that with you when you said that. That's so lovely. And it also reminded me to remind everybody that if you want to change anybody in your life, don't try to change them. Imagine them getting something wonderful happening to them.
Yes.
We love to do the blessings in our Imaginate sessions, and we can imagine other people getting windfalls, other people having amazing experiences, other people finding love, money, or whatever the case may be, health. And so use your imagination to bless others as well. If you use it to do the opposite, it's going to backfire on you. That's the way the law works. So if we try to put a bad spell on someone, it backfires on us. But we can actually help other people just by imagining them in a better situation. And if it's good for them, it's good for us. And most likely that's going to start happening in their lives. We've seen miracles that way too, where we've blessed other people and we've seen miracles happen in their lives.
Yes, absolutely. It's powerful stuff for sure.
Yeah.
So, time went by so quick today, but we hope that you've learned the power of your imagination, that you'll start playing with it. Make it a practice, even if it's for 5 minutes every day, where you sit somewhere, maybe somewhere that a park in nature as you go for a walk, sit by the water. Even just for 5 minutes that you have at your kitchen table, it doesn't matter. That's the beauty, is that you can do this anywhere and it's absolutely free. So we want everyone to try it out. If you start, seeing the power of this in your life, we'd love to hear all about it. So, be sure to stay in touch and let us know how it's working for you. And of course, if you want to be part of 100 Most Powerful Women, to work with Jacquie and I, we work with women to look like a million, feel like a million, impact millions, and of course, make millions doing what you love. And so we would love to hear from you. It's an application process to be able to join 100 Most Powerful Women, but I will put the link to the application in the comments below so that you can apply. We can learn more about your big goals and dreams, what you're imagining for your life. Maybe that's a business that you're wanting to start, build and grow to the next level. We would love to help you do it. So thanks so much for joining us today. We hope to see you next time on So You Want to Be a Millionaire. Bye, everyone.